It was a late afternoon when I first saw the house. It was tucked away at the end of a narrow, winding street that seemed almost forgotten by time. The house had always been there, according to the neighbors, but no one could remember the last time it had been lived in. It had been abandoned for years, maybe even decades, and there was something about it that drew me in, despite the eerie feeling that seemed to surround it. I'd recently moved to the area, and as a writer I was always on the lookout for inspiration. The old house, with its peeling paint and overgrown garden, seemed like the perfect place to spark my creativity. So, one evening, I decided to visit it. I wasn't sure why, but I had to see it up close. The front door was slightly ajar, as if inviting me in, and though a sense of unease settled over me, I pushed the thought aside. Curiosity had a hold on me. I stepped inside, the air cold and musty, the smell of decay thick in the house. The walls were lined with old wallpaper that had begun to peel, and the floorboards creaked under my feet, as though the house itself was waking up. I wandered through the rooms, each one more abandoned and disheveled than the last. Dust covered everything, and cobwebs hung like curtains in the corners. It was a hauntingly beautiful place, full of secrets, yet untouched by time. I took a deep breath, trying to ignore the growing sense of discomfort that crept up my spine. Then I found it, the room. At the end of a narrow hallway was a door that seemed different from the others. It was more solid, more worn, as though it had been used far more frequently. I hesitated for a moment, my hand on the doorknob, but something inside me urged me to open it. I turned the knob and stepped into the room. It was small, with a single window covered by heavy curtains that blocked out any light. The walls were bare except for one strange detail. Words had been scratched into the wood, fading and barely visible, but still there. "They are watching. Leave before it's too late." A chill ran through me, but I couldn't pull my eyes away from the message. It didn't make sense. Who had written it? And why? Suddenly, I heard something. A faint whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind, but as I stood there, it became clearer. It was a voice, soft and unintelligible, as though someone was speaking just out of reach. My heart skipped a beat, and I glanced around the room, trying to find the source. The whispering grew louder, more urgent. I felt my pulse quicken as I tried to make out the words, but they were just beyond my understanding. I moved toward the center of the room, and that's when I noticed it. A small, dusty mirror on the far wall, covered by a thick layer of grime. As I approached it, the whispers grew louder, and I could feel my breath catch in my throat. There was something about that mirror. It was as though it was pulling me toward it. I wiped away the dust with the sleeve of my jacket, revealing the reflection. At first, I saw only myself, my face pale and wide-eyed in the dim light. But then, the reflection shifted. Slowly, a figure appeared behind me. It was a shadow at first, just a dark outline, but then it became clearer. A person standing just over my shoulder, watching me. I spun around, but there was no one there. The whispering in the room was now deafening. It was as if the house itself was alive, and the walls were closing in. My breath quickened, and my heart hammered in my chest. The figure in the mirror was still there, its eyes locked on mine, its presence suffocating. I stumbled back, falling to the floor, and the mirror seemed to shimmer. I could hear the whispers more clearly now, their words piercing my mind. "Leave now, before it's too late." I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The figure in the mirror was getting closer, its face becoming clearer. It was a man with hollow eyes and a twisted smile, his mouth moving as if to speak, but no words came out, only the whispers. "Leave, leave, leave." The voice was no longer in the room. It was inside my head. Panicking, I scrambled to my feet and bolted toward the door. I didn't look back as I ran through the house, the whispers echoing in my mind, urging me to escape. I reached the front door and flung it open, bursting into the cold night air. I didn't stop running until I was back home, my heart still racing, my body drenched in sweat. The whispers had stopped, but the image of the figure in the mirror remained burned in my mind. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, a product of the eerie atmosphere in that house. But the memory lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me back, that I wasn't alone in my apartment. That night, I decided to take a shower to wash away the tension. But as I stood under the water, the whispers returned. Not from the house, from the bathroom mirror. I couldn't bring myself to look.